Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Relationships. Getting a message one day from your husband's ex-girlfriend claiming that she's pregnant from him, what would you do? Well, today we're gonna start with exactly that story. But before we begin, don't forget about Lost Genre AITA Daily, a channel dedicated exclusively to Am I the A-hole? Now let's get started. This one is from user ThrowArrayDryLet1754. My husband's ex-girlfriend recently reached out to me about my husband sleeping with her back in February. Now she's pregnant. Since November, my husband has been working a lot, and over time it started to affect our marriage, especially since he had to skip most of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, my birthday, for work trips. It got worse. In February, he missed Valentine's Day. Now, my husband has always been especially romantic even on Valentine's Day. Even if we had a fight, he still put an effort in to prove how much he loves me. This year, we had an even bigger fight about him not being around as much because of his work. He didn't seem to care and went on another business trip 4 days before Valentine's Day. I never got anything from him. We hardly talked when he went away, and this time the kids were upset that their dad hadn't called to talk to them. At the end of the month, he called to tell me he was heading home in a couple of days and wanted us to go away for a few days to work on things. Even though I was hesitant at first, I eventually agreed. While we were away, he agreed to cut down on his hours and go on less trips. We both agreed on counseling, which we started when we got back. It really did help us improve our marriage. I did bring up the fact I had been cheated on in the past. My husband knows this, being I also have a kid with my ex, and it was an occurring thought for me. My husband was asked during several sessions if he had been with other women, and every single time he was consistent with his answer. No, I am very happy with my wife. I believed him. Just a couple of days ago, his ex reached out to me to tell me that my husband had been sleeping with her from December right through to February, and now she was pregnant. But he had been ghosting her since he found out she was pregnant. Apparently, she recently became a client of his, and he asked her to join him on his business trips to get some alone time. This has devastated me, but I can't ask him yet because for the first time in months he is on a short business trip again. This may sound rude, but in the past or for other reasons I have had to go into his work phone. I was going to check his work phone considering he would not text from his personal phone, but recently he has made it a thing of leaving his work phone at his office. He had never left it at his office before and he never takes it with him on his trips. So I'm starting to get suspicious considering how everything adds up. I have heard from others that his ex could be lying. Several people from his workplace have told me he didn't want her as a client at first and that even when no one else could take her on, he very much kept everything professional. Close friends have also been telling me that for a couple of months she was jumping into any bed to sleep with anyone. To me, I don't know who to believe. My husband's ex was never crazy or anything after they broke up and practically didn't speak to him until recently. But at the same time, there should be no reason for her to know when he was away on trips unless he told her. Some people think I'm being stupid for believing her, but considering what she has told me, his attitude, behavior, and constant business trips are saying something else. Okay, well, how do you feel about the husband so far? Do you think he's cheating? Do you think the ex is telling the truth and she's actually pregnant? Or would you believe OP's other sources from her husband's workplace and her friends? So now that you have an idea of what you think is going on, let's check out the update that OP gave us. Update. My husband's ex-girlfriend recently reached out to me about my husband sleeping with her back in February. Now she's pregnant. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for their feedback and lovely comments. It has definitely helped me. My mind was seriously making me so angry and depressed I actually didn't know what to do. Someone who works for my husband knew about the ex, saw this post, figured out it was me, and the day my husband came back to town, he made a trip to the office first. His co-worker told him what happened, so by the time my husband got home, he knew that I came on here to write my post. He was extremely angry. Not with me, but with his ex. He pretty much sat me down the moment he got home and told me everything. From what he told me, since September of last year, my husband's boss did some major cut down on employees. The business had started to lose a massive amount of money, so several people were let go. My husband had to pick up the slack for not only himself, but 3 others. It got to the point when he was burning himself out that he started getting depressed and had a "I don't care anymore" attitude. By the time the excessive work trips started, his boss was making him pile on several new clients onto his schedule that he could barely handle. For a couple of months, he would see double the amount of clients during the day before heading back to his hotel room where he drank until he passed out. This made him super angry at himself, and he was slowly starting to hate who he was and what he did. When he had his ex as a client, he kept things blunt and would only take business with her. Then only had 4 meetings, and even then he told me she constantly tried flirting with him and he always just ignored her anyways and kept things professional. He told me that she was never on a business trip with him and he doesn't know how she got his schedule. He never told her, and that's supposed to be kept between himself and his boss anyway. He also offered that the next day I could go to work with him and collect his work phone. So I did. Everything was kept professional. There was nothing to suggest anything going on between them. He also told me he tried talking to his boss more than once about his ex being his client and being home with his family more. His boss gave him an ultimatum: continue working or breach his contract and be sued. By mid-January, he thought about just taking off because he couldn't deal with it anymore. But thankfully, another coworker picked up on his behavior and referred him to a therapist. I have started to go with him to his appointments, but I sit outside the door until he's done. My husband slowly made progress, and his therapist helped him work on himself before moving on to the topic of our family and me, which his therapist suggested an appointment for both of us. He also didn't tell me any of this at the time because he didn't feel ready to admit how crappy he had been feeling. He thought keeping it to himself would be better. He also said he would happily take a paternity test to prove his innocence. His ex, on the other hand, even though I have texted her, she told me again my husband gave her his schedule. When he was away, I asked her for the text messages between them and she said she would send them to me. It's been a week, I haven't heard anything. I also asked her for a paternity test and she agreed, but has pretty much been ghosting me since then. A lot of other people have asked her for evidence, but she continues to tell them she isn't making anything up but won't prove anything. She continues to text my husband about meeting up, but their contract ended months ago, so there is no reason for her to still contact him. I'm actually starting to believe that when she found out she was pregnant, she thought she didn't know the father and had to make up a story to cover her butt. I feel stupid for actually letting her get to me. But at the same time, things weren't adding up for my husband. I don't know if she noticed this and took a chance, or if now she will start to act all crazy. Now let's go through 2 of OP's edits to tie a few loose ends. 1. Just so people know, he did let me see the bills from each of his therapist appointments, and his co-worker is a woman that has a girlfriend at home. Plus, I know that she is someone a lot of people can go to for help. 2. Some people think it's shady my husband didn't tell me about the therapy, and like one person said, they would deal with their problems themselves. My husband has the same thought process. For him, yes, it's embarrassing to admit he is seeing a therapist. This for me isn't shady, it's just the way he is. As for his coworker telling him, I wouldn't be surprised he was giving him a heads up before I blindsided him with his ex contacting me. And that's it. So apparently there was no cheating, the ex is crazy, so whoever guessed crazy ex making up a story, you get a point. This was an all-round perfect storm. Overwhelming work and crazy ex trying to get into OP's head. Alright, now let's move on to the next story. This one's from user throwaway77837. My 27 female, soon-to-be ex-husband, 37 male, forced me into an open marriage and is now telling everyone I cheated on him. How do I prove my innocence? 2 years ago, my husband asked me if we could open our marriage. Married for 3 years, together for 5. When I said I wasn't comfortable with that, he said either we open our marriage or get a divorce. I didn't want a divorce, so I agreed to an open marriage. The next year was awful. He would flaunt all of these girls he was sleeping with in front of me. He would even bring them to our apartment to sleep with him whilst I was home. He even slept with my now ex-best friend Jane and tried to have a threesome with us. When I tried to voice my concerns, he dismissed them and said I had my chance to set rules when we first had the discussion. The only rule we had was we had to use protection, and I couldn't complain now. Hannah and I have been friends since high school, but she never liked my husband, so we drifted after I got married. When I told her what was happening, she insisted I go back to work. My husband made me quit my job when we got married, despite the fact I had a higher earning potential than him and we've struggled with money since. She ended up connecting me with her brother Leo, 30, who is the owner of a company in the field I was planning to pursue my career in. After an informal interview, he offered me a job. My husband wasn't happy and kept insisting I quit. He even offered to close our marriage if I would just quit, but I didn't want to be dependent on him again, so I refused. He even threatened to divorce, but by this point I was checked out of the relationship, so I didn't care. About 8 months later, Anna offered to let me move in with her since her roommate was moving out. I took her up on the offer and filed for divorce. Her and Leo helped me move my stuff out when my husband was at work. My husband has now been telling family and friends that I was having an affair with Leo this whole time. I wasn't, but most people believe him. Most of my friends are insisting I go back to my husband and have made comments about how I was trying to social climb by sleeping with Leo. They have been giving me a lot of lectures about how money isn't everything and sometimes you find a good man who loves you and you shouldn't throw him away just because someone else can offer you more materialistic stuff. Jane in particular is very vocal about what a crap I am. Just for context, she used to like Leo back in high school, but he rejected her multiple times. So I think she's being especially vicious because she thinks something is really going on between us. I don't have any written proof about this whole open marriage fiasco, so I can't show them that. Is there any other way I can convince them I wasn't sleeping around? How can I stop letting the rumors he's spreading affect me? Wow, now this is a tough situation. How would you guys deal with this? In any case, we've got community comments with advice, so let's go check those out. Mrs. Breezib says, look into what is called a smear campaign. Your ex is a narcissist and this is part of his control and manipulation. Don't engage and keep your true friends close. They are the ones who matter. Then Zizzling Tofu says, wow, leave your husband and all these terrible unsupportive friends behind. Your husband was so abusive and disrespectful towards you and clearly none of your friends and family clued in. Time to start fresh with people who understand and believe you. Life is so much better when you cut out toxic people and it sounds like you've had a lot of it around you. Good luck. Then Artemisia Slays says, your best revenge is living well. Forget all those friends and your abusive and controlling soon-to-be ex-husband. Then Disco Stew says, my ex-hubs forced me into an open marriage and didn't tell me about it at all. He then told everyone that I cheated on him after I left him, so I 100% feel you on this. Here's the pill that's extremely hard to swallow. It doesn't matter. At all. Let them think what they're going to think. At best, you convince someone who already believed you to be a piece of crap that you are not that bad. At worst, you look like a panicked, crazed ex-wife. You don't need it. 1. Why did you feel comfortable going to them? 2. Why did they believe him without discussing it with you? In my case, anybody who wholesale believed him didn't belong in my life. Prune the branches. You don't need to convince anyone. They need to convince you why they should remain in your life after not recognizing you were being abused and then siding with your abuser. I am so sorry this happened to you. Stay strong and know that the opinions and beliefs of others have absolutely nothing to do with anything. And finally, Johnny D50 says, you can't convince people that are already closed-minded if you already told them your side and they refuse to believe it. then they are the type of people that you need to cut out of your life. There is always potential to form new relationships. You tell them, I have already told you my side of things. If you don't care to believe me, then that's on you, and your opinions on the matter, I couldn't care less. I know the truth, and that is all that matters. Do not let anyone guilt trip you, and don't feel pressured to go back to your husband. He is a D, and you deserve better. Your primary concern is your well-being and independency. In the future, do not let anyone you're in a relationship to force you into doing anything that you're not comfortable with. You need to have standards and not put up with crap. And that all seems like pretty solid advice to me. Yeah, those friends suck. Just cut them out of your life. You don't need toxic people. And your ex, definitely cut him out. Whatever he says, it doesn't matter. Your relatives should have your back, OP, and if they can't, then they probably need a timeout as well. What do you guys think? And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, just go ahead and click like, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, don't forget to check out my new channel, the link's in the description. And finally, go ahead and visit the Lost Genres subreddit where you can share your own stories or cross-post stories from other subs. And having said all of that, I will see you guys in the next video.